Okay, today we are going to be making another card using the Inspiring Iris stamp set. It's a photopolymer stamp set from Stampin' Up. It has several different images. There's kind of a flower, like a, I don't know what kind of flower, an iris and a carnation, and several different other sentiment stamps. I'm also going to be using the Birch background stamp set. We are going to be learning how to use the silicone craft sheet to do a reverse image on this. We're going to be using some other products by Stampin' Up. The Stampin' Pierce mat, which is a really necessary tool to have in your craft stash so that you can use the photopolymer stamps and get a better image. And also the Stamparatus, which gives the opportunity to repeat stamping in the same spot. Also has a good coverage for large background stamps in case you don't have a large enough block. And this also does several other things, but today I'm just going to be using it for the background stamp. So let's get started today. We're going to make this card today. And the other pieces that we will need for cardstock today is a Whisper White piece that is 4 1/8 by 2 7/8. The Gorgeous Grape cardstock is 4 1/4 by 3 inches. The Highland Heather layer is 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. You're going to have two of the Whisper White pieces that are 5 1/4 by 4. One is going to be used for the inside and one for a layer on the outside. And then again, the Gorgeous Grape is going to be the card base, and it is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, and you're going to score that at 4 1/4 in half. And I use the bone folder to get a nice crisp image or score line fold so that it will lay fairly flat. Now the pieces that you're going to stamp on will be the inside piece. The Highland Heather will be where you're going to do the background for the birch, and then the small white layer is where you're going to do your iris and your reverse stamping. So let's start with the background stamp for the birch background. And I'm going to bring back in the Stamparatus. It's always good to put a stamp case on the back side so you can make sure that when you're inking, you're getting a good surface. I went ahead and kind of stamped one before, and I drew some lines to kind of see where this will be. And then you won't use your magnets to hold this piece down because it would get in the way of the stamping. So on this piece, I'm going to use the Gorgeous Grape on the birch background so that it's a darker image on that Highland Heather layer. And then you're just going to want to make sure that you push down and get a really good image on that piece. And this part, some of it's going to be hidden, so it looks really good. So I'm going to go ahead and clean off my stamp. Again, the stamp chamois is really great for being able to clean things, especially if they're on your Stamparatus. It's a little hard to take this stamp and put it on the old cleaner that we used to have. And when using items such as wet wipes or something, a lot of times you'll get the fibers left behind. So we can go ahead and set this off to the side. And then because these are photopolymer images, you will need the Stampin' Pierce mat to get a good crisp image. I'm going to go ahead and stamp my inside piece. Now on my card, I just stamped the flowers and left a place for an inside message, but I'm going to go ahead today and use the wishing you the best on the front, and then one of the other sentiments from this stamp set is you are somebody who makes everybody feel like somebody, and I'm going to put that on the inside today. So I'm going to start with the Tuxedo Black Memento ink pad, do the outline image in that, and I'm just going to do that off to the side. And then I'm going to use Garden Green for the stems and leaves, and this is kind of a watercolor background image. You could just color it in with Stampin' Write markers or with the Stampin' Blends, but I like the way that this watercolor image kind of looks. I'm also stamping the iris in the Highland Heather. It's kind of more of a soft color that I wanted to match. And I kind of line this up again with the outline, but if you don't get it exact, it's still going to look very good. It looks kind of painted. And then the inside image, that you are somebody, I'm going to ink up in the black. And stamp over here on this side. And then I'll put that one away. I think while I've got this out also, I want to stamp the front of the envelope. And with this one, I'm just going to use the background pieces to create more of just a watercolor image on the front without the outline. And I'm going to do that in Garden Green and again in Highland Heather. And there we go. And I'll set that off to the side. Then I'm going to bring in that small white cardstock that I have. And on this one, on my main card, I stamped two of them, this the regular direction, and then I stamped another one off in the reverse of that. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with this piece. I'm going to do the outline image first, and I'm going to do that 2 times off to the left side. And you can kind of alternate the height and where you would like these. And I like to apply my ink to the stamp so I can see where it is and that I've gotten everything. And then this one I'm going to bring down a little bit because I do know that I want to have that sentiment up there. Now for the third one, this is where I'm going to bring in the silicone craft sheet. It is a little bit opaque, so you can kind of see through it a little bit, and it doesn't hold glue or ink or anything. You can just wipe those things off. So I'm going to ink this up really well. Another thing that you could do if you just want to make sure that you get it in the right place is you can or if you want to be able to re-ink it and ink it over and over, you can put this in your Stamparatus and be able to ink the image onto the silicone craft sheet before you take, and then you're just going to turn that over so that the ink is face down, and you're going to want to, and I turn it so that I can kind of see better. I'm going to move that down so that I can get that sentiment above it, and then I want to make sure that I get it onto here, and you're going to just lay it straight down, and then you're just going to rub it. You can use a block, you can use a brayer, you can use just your fingers, and then you're going to lift it straight back up, and then you'll have a reverse image of that same stamp. And that technique works really well, especially if you're wanting a reflection in water, or if you're wanting two items to be facing each other. I'm going to keep that over here because I'm also going to do the same techniques with the background images. I'm going to need to flip them. So I'm going to come along here with the Highland Heather, and I'm going to stamp the flowers. I have another video where I showed that you could add color to these and add some extra dark areas, but you would want to stamp the lighter color first and then add color with like a sponge dauber and then stamp it on there. So this time I'm going to get it inked up very well, and I'm going to stamp it onto the silicone craft sheet, and then I'm going to do my best to be able to hold that up and look through to find where my outline image is, and I kind of look down through here, and it got a little bit off, but it is still going to look like somebody had done a watercolor on it. And like I said, this is homemade, and whoever gets it is going to appreciate it, so don't feel like you've done something wrong. And you could always do just 3 of them straight across. You don't have to use the reverse technique at all. When I line this up, I try to get that bulb part for the top iris and then line up some of the outside leaves, and that's kind of just how I figure out where to stamp this. And then I do the same thing here, and then I will again stamp onto the silicone craft sheet. You can do this with some other materials such as the window sheet or something. You just need to be very super careful with that because those tend to slide and smear more than this one does. I'm going to get my head a little bit closer in here this time. Okay, and so you get those. I'm going to again wipe that off of that silicone craft sheet, and then I'll be able to come in and stamp the message, the sentiment for the front, and I'm using that tuxedo black again, and I'm just going to put that up here in this top corner. Okay. Now I'm going to let that, set it aside and let it dry a little bit, soak in, absorb, whatever the word is. So I'm going to clean off the stamps really quickly. And my name is Diane Well. I don't know that I introduced myself. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States. I am just getting started with videos for my customers and family and friends. I do hope to be able to grow into having a blog and other website, But right now I do have my Stampin' Up! Site on the Stampin' Up! Website, and it's Diane's Die Cut Divas.stampinup.net. I'm planning on setting up a different blog name, but I haven't quite decided yet. So just keep watching for updates, and I will let you guys know when I have grown enough to get myself that direction. So now I will set these other things aside and bring everything in to start assembling the card. So you're going to do this Highland Heather piece will adhere onto the large plain white layer, Whisper White layer that goes on the front, and it's a very small border. That will be there. And then you're going to adhere this to the front of the card. This will have a little bit more of a border. And then you could go ahead and adhere the piece that goes on the inside. There. And then I'm just going to adhere the smaller piece to this Gorgeous Grape layer, and again it's just a small border around that. Now on this piece I did use the Stampin' Dimensionals to kind of add a little bit of dimension to the front of the card. I try to make sure that I add, in fact I didn't add enough from what I like. I want to make sure that it's going to stand up when I do mail this card. Now you can take a piercing tool. The Take Your Pick tool has a piercing tool attachment on it. I still have the old Stampin' Up! Piercing tool to pick up these pieces, or if your fingernails are long enough you can just grab those and throw them away, whichever is your preference or whichever works best for you. And then make sure you put that on right side up. You could always add ribbon or other embellishments if you want it to be a little more. You could come in here with Wink of Stella and add some glitter to some of these leaves and make it even more. But this way you have kind of a really neat card, and somebody would enjoy getting that. I'm going to try to continue to make more videos for my customers and others, so I hope that you will keep checking back with me. I know on this envelope I used that other flower. So this is a very versatile set, and I really enjoy making cards with it. Thank you.